Hello, and thanks for visiting the channel. I'm your host, a late stage boomer. The area that I live in is largely undeveloped. A lot of old farms and country acreage, winding two-lane roads with occasional patches of woods and small creeks, a lot of barns of varying conditions, and the occasional Chevrolet or Frigidaire planter in the front yard. It's very picturesque. Not really the sticks, but I'm in the same zip code. We have electricity, water, indoor plumbing, cell phone service, and just recently got fiber optic cable. So, we may lean a little bit towards the bumpkin end of the scale sometimes, but hey, we're civilized. Hell, we've even got us a Piggly Wiggly, two Family Dollars, two Dollar Trees, and one DG Market, all within a 10-minute drive from each other. As they used to say around these parts, we're in high cotton. One other thing that we've just recently got that puts us on par with many more metropolitan areas. We've started getting flock cameras. For those savages who still haven't gotten theirs yet, a flock camera is a device that reads, records, and reports information about your vehicle as you pass by it. They are cameras that are motion activated, automated license plate readers, or ALPRs. And not only can they read your license plate number, but they can also identify the make and model and color of your vehicle, as well as make notes about any features that might be unique to your ride, like dents, decals, and bumper stickers. They use artificial intelligence and machine learning to process photos of passing vehicles, and then they convert that info into encrypted gobbledygook that is then uploaded into cloud storage in the form of searchable data. This data can be recalled at any time by using simple, plain language keyword search, similar to internet search engines, or can be monitored in real time. The algorithm is even capable of monitoring traffic patterns and situations and send alerts about vehicles that have been flagged for special monitoring. According to a report about ALPRs by the Department of Homeland Security, there are at least 15 companies producing these cameras. The vast majority of these companies are ones you're not likely to be familiar with. The three most recognizable names would be Motorola Solutions, Exxon Enterprises Incorporated, and Flock Safety. It's the Flock name that's most often associated with these cameras in a generic term, like Xerox is any photocopy or Google is any search online. Flock currently has an estimated 92,000 cameras deployed across 49 states and are generally considered to be the leader in private and neighborhood law enforcement subscription markets. By private, I mean a non federal entity like a state, region, or local police department, or residential areas that are exclusive or restricted from the public. Proponents of ALPRs will tell you that they're good for any number of things, keeping track of traffic flow patterns to learn of better ways to manage congestion and lower commute times. They also operate 24/7 in all weather conditions. By their ability to identify and automatically upload data, they reduce the workload on humans who'd normally be needed to enter that data manually. More importantly, though, they can be used to help increase revenue without having to invest in human capital to collect it. I utilized the New York State Thruway system a couple of weeks ago when I visited up there, and their toll system is camera based, as are most toll roads now. Even though I live over 800 miles away, they could still read my car's out of state tag, find my address, and bill me for my tolls. Ever see a police car sitting on the side of the road or in the median and it appears to be empty? I'll bet you dollars to donuts that's because there's a flock camera in it instead of an officer. As of yet, issuing moving violations solely by flock data isn't allowed. So if you're speeding or run a red light when you pass one, unless there's an officer to actually see the infraction, you won't likely get a ticket in the mail for it. Automated traffic tickets are usually issued by other types of cameras that are made specifically for those purposes. In fact, in many states, it's not only illegal to use ALPRs to issue tickets for moving or parking violations, but there are also currently 10 states that ban camera use entirely for automated ticketing: Maine, Mississippi, Montana, New Hampshire, New Jersey, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. But you will get flagged in a flock system if your vehicle has an expired registration, out of date inspection, or lapsed insurance, or if it was used in the commission of a crime, or if it's stolen. For now, at least, the primary use of flock cameras is to help locate missing persons, stolen vehicles, vehicles involved in crimes, and finding wanted criminals with warrants out against them. The flock style system also connects units in the field with the main database so they can send and receive alerts not only between themselves, but with other law enforcement agencies or jurisdictions in real time. Opponents to flocking make some pretty strong cases in their favor, arguably the foremost of which is warrantless tracking. In many criminal cases, law enforcement agencies are required to obtain a warrant or a court order in order to surveil a subject. That usually requires them to show just cause for their extraordinary measures. While the courts have ruled time and again that there's little to no expectation of privacy when it comes to the public surveillance of a subject, the police still will eventually need to show a good reason to explain why they're going through your garbage or following you as you go about your day. Utilizing flock data circumvents this. They can follow the daily comings and goings of any law abiding citizen by tracking their driving habits, where and when they go to work or go to school, where they shop, where they worship, where they go to the doctor, or if they've gone to any areas or locations themselves that might seem sketchy or skeevy, or if they were anywhere around any areas of special interest, say like a political rally or a town meeting. Another concern is the potential future where some of the smaller camera manufacturers and data networks will merge or be bought out, kind of in the same way that the streaming TV and cable TV and major mainstream media have all gobbled each other up over time. Then there's the issue of sharing data with third parties. Law enforcement and government agencies continuously share data amongst themselves. Anyone who's ever watched an episode of Law and Order or CSI or any cop show has heard terms mentioned like APHIS or CODIS or IBIS. all of which are databases which all law enforcement have access to. So, what happens if a flock system makes a mistake and flags your vehicle wrongly? Mistakes happen, even with automated systems. The optical character recognition, or OCR, algorithms are far from perfect. There's a chance that it could read an E as an F or a I as a 1. From what I've learned, the most common misread is the software having trouble identifying the difference between an 8 and a 9. That mistake may well unduly flag you nationwide or perhaps even internationally. I have some firsthand experience with lower level ALPR software. I worked for some time at a car rental agency where we used OCR software to log in and out rental vehicles by scanning their license plates with a smartphone camera. It was fairly reliable, but not totally. And as backup method, the vehicles also had barcodes and QR codes that we could scan in case the software didn't read or match the plate, which I guesstimate was maybe about 10% of the time. But the Flock system offers no such safety nets. Case in point, on July 12th of this year, automotive journalist Joel Felder found himself at the center of an armed takedown in Minnesota when he was test driving a Range Rover. He had been given the SUV for a week to evaluate it as part of an article he was writing. He was running errands in it, and his wife was with him at the time. When they were backing out of a store parking lot, they were boxed in by four vehicles from the Plymouth, Minnesota Police Department, who initiated a felony takedown of the Felders, which meant that the officers had their guns ready as they demanded the Felders to exit the vehicle and lay on the ground, just like you see on TV or in the movies. The Felders complied, and upon further investigation, the police and the Felders learned that a flock system had mistakenly flagged the vehicle as stolen. Not just one erroneous flagging, but two. Once by a system in California, and a second time by the Plymouth PD. They had been following him for at least 2 days before staging the takedown. Fortunately, the encounter ended peacefully, but it illustrates the danger inherent in a system with no real guardrails of checks and balances at this point. The plate on the Felder's vehicle was 3410 DTM, which was misread by Flock as 34 DTM, which police believe was a similar tag reported stolen in Los Angeles. I say believe because they're not even sure. There's no real paper trail to follow here. Flock reports that an estimated 20 billion vehicles pass their cameras every month. They claim a capture accuracy rate of 93%. I guess that's better than 92%, but that still breaks down to about 1.4 billion times each month where the police get either no info whatsoever or they get the wrong info, which can and will lead to more unnecessary stops like the Felders, and eventually will, if it hasn't already, lead to some innocent driver being injured or killed by erroneous police action. Flock is doing the expected bob and weave PR maneuver in which they say they take all errors seriously, they're working to address the issue, and that their data shouldn't be the end all of a police alert or investigation. Officers should confirm plates and vehicle details and surrounding circumstances before taking any enforcement action. This is in contrast to a different report. According to author Tyler Lacoma in an article published by CNET on August 4th of this year, the success rate of ALPRs was horribly inaccurate. In a study conducted of data relayed by Flock Systems cameras between 2023 and 2024, deployed in the Roseville Police Department in California, it was concluded that the cameras had error rates as high as 71%. And these numbers came from the Roseville PD itself, not an outside auditor. You'd think that they'd be the ones that would want to put the best possible face on this in order to help justify the use of the system. And this was the best number they could come up with. Flock defended themselves as best they could, saying that camera placement, vehicle speed, and weather conditions played factors in the misreadings. Flock specifically called out the fact that the cameras were aimed so as to capture the rear of the vehicle instead of the front, where their facial recognition algorithm could assist. Yep, some of them have got facial recognition built into them too. Another data point that factors into whether an alert is issued or not. Oh, and some have microphones too, ostensibly to be able to hear gunfire and help to triangulate its location. But it's been alleged that these microphones are sensitive enough to have been able to pick up and record conversations being held in residences nearby the camera. Being privately listened to or observed is nothing new. Wiretaps, hidden cameras, webcams being co opted, smartphones, smart assistants, smart TVs, all have been proven to be used by governments, agents of the law, or unsavory individuals for as long as the technologies have existed. Another completely different issue is the security of the data itself. All of the different flock style camera models rely on transferring their data either by wireless networking or by cellular transmission. While the data is encrypted, we have no real idea of the degree of encryption. Any wireless or over the air transmission can be intercepted, and even reasonably decent encryption can be broken by brute force given enough processing power and patience. Data breaches happen every day despite billions of dollars being invested in cybersecurity between governments and corporations. Any hacker that's worth his weight in cryptocurrency knows that any system is exploitable. The overwhelming majority of data breaches don't occur because someone found a secret back door. They happen because somebody lets them in through the front door. Social engineering works almost every time. You have to believe that it's only a matter of time before there's a breach that introduces malware or even ransomware into the system. Corporations, hospitals, municipalities, they've all suffered from ransomware attacks, and it's almost always because some low level employee with even just basic system access clicked on an innocent looking message or link. It's actually that easy. And who exactly has access to all of this collected data? The companies who own the cameras, law enforcement, any outside vendors that may be tasked with monitoring the flow of data and its accuracy? How is the data used? While the various ALPR makers claim that the data is being shared exclusively with law enforcement, it doesn't take a major leap of imagination to think that your face, car type, and other notable characteristics will eventually be sold to third parties, either officially or unofficially. Car manufacturers or dealerships can target you for advertising. Your insurance company now won't have to rely on their own proprietary tattletale apps to tell them where and when and how fast you drive so they can justify raising your rates or even canceling you. I've already mentioned what the stated and intended purposes for it are, but how else can it be used? The fact that facial recognition is a part of it leads to questions about whether it will be used to connect ownership of a vehicle to an individual or whether it would or could be used in the stalking of an individual. So far, dozens of law enforcement officers nationwide have been accused of or charged with abusing ALPRs in order to illegally track romantic partners, ex spouses, and acquaintances. Because the networks of these cameras is so vast and no warrants are needed to initiate inquiries, rogue officers have turned a public safety infrastructure into their own personal surveillance system. Police officers can type in any license plate number into the database without the need for any specific or verified criminal case number. Since these cameras record and report in real time, it's very easy and simple to track any specific vehicles or through face recognition track individuals. Internal audits have shown that queries have been made about the travel patterns of specific vehicles or people using official officer logins, only to find that the officer claims to have never made the request. So either that officer's login password has been compromised or the officer is lying. While there have been reports of abuse from almost every state, I'm going to specifically call out Georgia about this. The Albany Police Department was recently targeted by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. 5 officers were fired and arrested after internal investigations flagged them for conducting unauthorized personal searches. The Savannah, Georgia Police Department placed 6 employees on administrative leave after findings that they'd run unauthorized checks on personal acquaintances. A Habersham County Sheriff deputy was fired and arrested on felony charges of violating oath in office after tracking data for non law enforcement reasons. 3 Cherokee County officers, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and a deputy, all face criminal charges for violating their oaths and improper lookups. The chief of the Braselton Police Department resigned and was arrested for using the town's ALPR system to stalk and harass private citizens. There are numerous articles about the misuse of ALPRs that are accessible online, including ones from Washington Post and CNN, where I drew some of this information from. These misuses have come to light only because of new audit assisting tools that were introduced into the system by Flock that are designed to look for irregular search patterns. The sentiment behind it is nice, but to play devil's advocate for a minute, I'm willing to say that if the particular algorithm isn't any better than the ones they're using for the plate readers, then there's going to be some false flagging of officers as well. Hoist on their own petard. We can bitch and moan all we want. Cameras are always going to be around in public. Cameras were first used in public starting in the 1940s to watch public adjacent areas or areas of high security, banks, factories, government buildings. As time wore on, their use expanded into more areas, with the boom of them starting on a street level in the 1960s. But you can look back to 1927, where in the Soviet Union, Leon Theremin developed an early mechanical scanning closed circuit video system that was installed in the courtyard of the Kremlin to keep watch on visitors. And if you thought you recognized that name, yeah, it's because it's the same guy who developed the musical instrument that bears his name. Anyone who's ever seen a sci-fi or horror movie from the classic 50s era knows that sound. In 1942, Germany, Walter Bruck developed and installed the first true closed-circuit TV system in Peenemünde to monitor the launch of V-2 rockets from a safe distance. Here in America, we saw our first commercially available CCTV system being sold, the Vericon, which was used for business and industrial surveillance. 1956, London got its first CCTV system for monitoring traffic, which makes it one of the earliest examples of civilian use in public areas. In 1968, Olean, New York, not too very far from where I grew up, is commonly cited as the first city in the United States to install cameras on their main street for public safety monitoring and to deter crime. New York City installed their first cameras in 1973 in Times Square to try to help take a bite out of crime in the Big Apple. Starting in the early 1980s, the UK began the widespread adoption of video surveillance, which earned it the nickname the nanny state. Early systems were all live and required actual people to monitor them and make decisions regarding what, if any, action was needed. Technology eventually started phasing out the human element as some lower priority systems could have their images recorded and played back at a later time. For the last couple decades, maybe more, there's been a creeping dread in society that we as a culture are slowly losing our privacy. I find this line of thinking to be a bit odd, as pretty much from birth we've been conditioned to expect people to always be watching you. We entertain our newborn infants by playing peekaboo, I see you. Every parent has a baby monitor of some kind, be it audio or visual. We even use them to keep track of our pets while we're away on errands or on a trip. As we age up a bit, we learn about this mysterious being known as the tooth fairy. It knows when you've lost a tooth because it sees the gap in your mouth, and you or your parents summon it, which makes it appear in the dark of night while you're asleep and somehow trades the tooth for a reward without waking you up. And you're young and innocent enough to not be frightened or creeped out by the fact that some creature was in your room alone with you, watching you, waiting for the right chance to make the swap. Then there's Santa Claus. He knows when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. And if you're born into a religious household, then there's an omniscient and all knowing deity keeping an eye on you. We try to ingrain to our children that even when nobody is around, you're never really alone. And don't forget about nanny cams either. Today, it's estimated that anywhere between 50 to 55% of US households have a video monitoring system to one degree or another. Outdoor cameras, indoor cameras, doorbell cameras. Roughly 75% have some kind of security device like motion activated lights, alarms, or smart sensors. Even if you decide you want to sell your house, it's estimated that as many as 56% of sellers leave at least one smart device active in their house while it's being shown to prospective buyers, particularly if it's an open house situation. So think twice before you decide to peek into somebody's medicine cabinet or make a snide remark about their lousy taste in wallpaper. And of course, we can't forget about the cell phone. Buying one with a good camera is the best upselling feature, and for some people, is of more importance than how much storage it has or what processor is in it. Taking pictures used to be a special thing. Now it's rarely given a second thought. If it wasn't for a cell phone camera, my channel wouldn't even exist. I'll finish up with these final thoughts. There was a novel written a long time ago about what we eventually came to call the surveillance state. No, not that one. Not that one either. This one. The book is called We, and was written by Yevgeny Zamyatin. Sorry if I butchered the name, but he was a Russian author who lived from 1884 to 1937. He was a Bolshevik, which was a faction of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party before the October Revolution of 1917, that was led by Vladimir Lenin, that led to the creation of the Soviet Union. Zamyatin was a literary critic, science fiction author, writer of philosophy, and political satirist. It was the latter that eventually got him in trouble. In Zamyatin's fictional dystopia, the rulers of one state required all of its citizens to reside in apartments in which all of the walls were glass so that the police could constantly monitor them. People had no names, only a letter designation and a number. Individuality was suppressed in favor of mathematical precision and collective uniformity. The theme of the story is the conflict between individual freedom and state control, the dangers of technology and totalitarianism, and the importance of emotion and imagination. Not only is this book widely considered to be the godfather of dystopian fiction, both George Orwell and Aldous Huxley were said to be inspired by it when they wrote 1984 and Brave New World, respectively. You can also see a few strands of DNA from it in George Lucas's THX 1138. This might come as a shock, but Wii was banned in the Soviet Union for decades. It was written between 1920 and 1921, and it was the first book to be banned by the Communist Party, and was published in English in 1924 after Zamyatin had it smuggled out of the country. He was blacklisted for it, and Stalin approved of his request to leave the country. He died in poverty in 1937 in Paris. His book wouldn't be published in the USSR until 1988. Orwell was right for the most part, and the concept of Big Brother has come to pass. When I was younger, when driving down certain roads, you might occasionally see a sign saying that speed was being monitored by aircraft or checked by radar, the eye in the sky, or the bear in the bushes. Now it's the glass that watches your ass. Cameras aren't going to go away, and technology will always advance. I can imagine that in another 10 or 15 years, there will be a different technology that will replace ALPRs altogether, probably something along the lines of high powered radio frequency ID chips, similar to what's in your car's key remote fob or on your credit card, or maybe some variant of Bluetooth low energy or ultra wideband or near field communication transmission technology, much like an Apple AirTag, but one that's built into your car and that's updated by your local state or federal government office by flashing your car on a regular basis. But until that happens, cameras of some kind are here to stay. While we can complain about them to our local, state, or federal government officials, it's highly unlikely that flock cameras will be removed. Whenever it makes a mistake or gets abused, there will always be someone to point out the cases in which it has worked as designed and a dangerous criminal was caught. The best we can hope for is for the software to continue to improve and for more guardrails to be put in place and to continue to audit the system and bring its abusers to accountability. Others aren't willing to give the technology a chance, though. In a case of irony being pretty ironic, flock cameras are being vandalized or stolen. They themselves are victims of crimes that surveillance is theoretically supposed to reduce or eliminate. Right now, Minnesotans seem to be leading the charge in the revolt against the machines. The town of Winona, Minnesota recently saw the theft of all 8 of the city's flock cameras. Thieves used saws to cut down the poles that held the cameras up. Other cities in Minnesota have seen similar occurrences. Areas such as Duluth, Plymouth, Faribault, Edina, and Anoka counties, where cameras have either been stolen or vandalized. With an average replacement cost of around $3,000 per camera and pole, That can add up pretty quickly, and you can guarantee that the cost will be passed along to the common folks in some way, shape, form, or another. In positively stunning news from the No Shit Sherlock Institute, law enforcement analysts seem to believe that the rash of vandalism, some of which is coordinated, is due to public dissatisfaction and pushback against local officials. So, as much as I'm against them, I'm even more against theft and vandalism. Don't damage or steal any cameras or anything else for that matter. It's illegal and definitely not worth an arrest record or a fine or jail time if you're caught. Fight the system from within the system. If you're still here at the end, I thank you so much for hanging around. I hope you found this video either enlightening or informative or entertaining in some way. I'd appreciate it if you'd share your views or thoughts about what I've said. Does your community have flock cameras? Did you even know what a flock camera was before I started talking about them? Has your town discussed putting them in? Have you seen any in the wild? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to check out previous topics that I've discussed here. As always, if you want to keep me on the mic, please give this video a like. If you dig the vibe, please subscribe. And if you don't want to get passed by, click on the bell to be notified. I hope to see you all again soon for another video. Please be kind to others, be kind to yourselves, and thank you again.